Welcome back to Learning with me, Ms. Killen, here at MPB. I'm so glad that you came back. We are in Unit 10. We're looking at statistics with one variable. We're looking today at Lesson 3, box plots. We have S-ID.1 and 2. I can interpret a box plot while I calculate the 5-number summary of a data set. So let's go ahead and look and see some new vocabulary that we're getting. It says we know what a dot plot is. We've used that. We use the dots to represent the number of times we see that value. We know what a mean is. That is my average. We just learned what our histogram is, how we have to have the same width to show the interval amounts. We've worked with the frequency table, showing how many times or how frequent a value is represented. We also know what the mode is. Our mode is the one that we see the most. Now, some new ones that we may not be completely clear about is our minimum, which is the smallest, our maximum, which we could say is the largest, and then our median, which is in the exact middle. So let's look at this. This is an example of a box plot. So our minimum is all the way down here. It is the smallest value of whatever data that we're looking at. We have our maximum up here, which is our maximum of our data. And then we have an outlier. It's one that's kind of not set with the majority of our data. We have our Q1 and Q3, and then the median is always in the middle. All right, so our labels on a horizontal axis should be distributed evenly. Some types refer to this as a box plot. Now, when I was young and I learned these, it was called a called a box and whiskers plot. Now we're calling these box plots. It's the same thing. You may see them as box plots. You may see them as box and whiskers. So I want you to know that they're both talking about the same thing. So let's look and see what else we got. Let's take some notes on this number summary. Now, we're having to look at this. We're looking at the minimum value, and then we're looking at our lower quartile. Between the minimum and lower quartile is 25% of our data. Then we're looking at the median, which is the middle number. If we're looking at all this data, it's the number that would be in the middle. And from the minimum to the median, that's going to be 50% of the data that we're talking about. We have our upper quartile, which is talking about our 75% mark. So we have 75% of our data is lower than our upper quartile, or you can see 25% of our data is higher than that upper quartile. And then obviously the maximum, the most of our data. So we're looking at this number summary. Now, Ms. Killen, you said it was a 5-number summary. Yes, I did. The one that's missing is this one. And we said that that meant average. So we want to make sure that we're understanding what all of these phrases mean. Minimum, lower quartile, median, mean, upper quartile, and maximum. We want to make sure that we're understanding what those are talking about. And you're also going to see them as Q1, Q2, or Q3. So you need to make sure that you're understanding this. This slide right here would be a great time for you to just pause the video and just write these different numbers down, the percentages from here to there. So this is a very extremely important slide that we've got. All right, so here we go. Like I said, our 5-number summary formula. So we have minimum, it's our first data point, our Q1 data, which is the data point from n plus 1 divided by 4. So we're having 1/4 of the data, or the first 25%. My Q2 is our median. It's in the middle. Our Q3 is the 75% mark. And then obviously our maximum is our last point. So it says the 5-number summary, the minimum, which is our smallest number, Q1, it's the median or the middle between the first half of our data. Our Q2 is our median, which is in the middle of our data. So I'm going to put middle. our Q3, it's the median of the second part. So when we find that second part of the data, it's the middle of that. And then our maximum obviously is the largest number. All right, so let's label this box plot. So remember what each point is and its percentages. So I'm going to go ahead and label this. You label it on your paper to make sure that you're understanding what we got. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to put is my minimum and my maximum. Those are the easiest ones to remember. Now we said in the middle is our what? Median. Then I have my Q1, which is my lower quartile. And then we had our Q3, which is our upper quartile. And then we said that the median was my Q2. Now, from my minimum to my Q1, we said is 25% of my data. From my Q1 to my Q2 is another 25% of my data. From my middle or median to Q3 is yet another 25% of my data. And then from my upper quartile to my maximum is the last 25% of my quartile. And if you know anything about a dollar, 4 quarters or 4 25s give you a whole. So that's what we mean when we're talking about the percentages. I've got from a median to lower quartile, from lower quartile to median, from median to upper quartile, from upper quartile to my maximum. Those are my percentages. All right, so here we go. It says if we have an even or an odd data set, they have specific ways that they can be presented. So obviously this one isn't even because I have 8 triangles. So what we're going to say is that this bottom here is my lower half. Then I can say that these 4 are my upper half. Now, for me to find the middle, I'm going to take these 2 numbers and I'm going to get the average. And then that would be my median. All right, so obviously here would be my Q1 because 25%, 25%. And then if we look at the upper half, we split it in 2. This would be my Q3, and I would have 25% and 25%. So this is how I'm looking at this even data set. It is not that difficult to find the different parts except for that median where you're going to have to get the average to find that middle number. All right, so now let's look at the next one. The next one is an odd data set. They have a specific way to be represented as well. So let me go ahead and label this odd data set. So here we go. The first you need to know is I have what? 4, 5, 9 points. So I'm going to put this down here, 4 points, as my lower half. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 as my what? Upper half. Now I've got something in the middle. So I can say that this one right here is my median. It's in the exact middle. I don't have to get an average. Obviously, in the middle of this lower half would be my Q1, which is my lower quartile. The middle of my upper half would be my Q3, my upper quartile. So you're going to want to make sure that you're looking at these halves, how to find that Q1, how to find that Q3. Now, I know these are triangles, and it's a little bit different when we have numbers, but I did want you to see how it roughly looks. All right, so let's go ahead and look. Let's look at this data set. First, we place it in numerical order. We're going to find the 5-number summary. To find Q1 with even numbers, take the middle two and find the average, same as Q3. Construct a box plot and use the 5-number summary. So let's put these in numerical order first. So I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10. I have how many numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 numbers I'm looking at. All right, so the first thing I want to do is maybe group them into my halves. So since I have 8, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 as my lower half, and 1, 2, 3, 4 as my upper half. So I can say this is my min, and this is my max. To find my median, what do we need to do? We need to take these two, add them together, and get 8, and divide by 2. So my median is going to be 4. It's in the middle. Now for me to find my Q1 and Q3, I'm going to take my 2 middle numbers of my lower quartile, add them together, and add them together and divide by 2, and I get 3 halves, which we know is 1.5. So my Q1 is going to be about right here at 1.5. To find my Q3, I'm going to take these 2 middle numbers, add them together, and divide by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So this one at 8 is going to be my Q3. Now, obviously, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, but let's also look at the mean. Let's see if we can find the mean real fast. So I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 10. So let's take our calculator and add those up. Let's see. 0 obviously doesn't give me an amount, but we're still going to use it to add. So I have 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9 plus 10. Add those up and get 37, then divide by my 8. So my mean, we could say, is 4.625. So looking at these different points, minimum and maximum, Q1, which is my upper quartile range, Q1, which is my lower quartile range, Q3, which is my upper quartile range, and then that median, then still looking at the min. So now that we found all of these, let's answer some questions. So let me get another color to answer questions. Let's use green. The lowest 50% of data values are from what to what? Well, obviously, it's going to be from 0 to 3 because we have this lower quartile range. The highest 50% range of data values are from what to what? Well, we've already looked at that. It's from 5 to 10. So let's go back and put that from 5 to 10. The middle 50% range, that's from Q1 to Q3, we could say are from 1.5 to 8. The first quartile represents the lowest or the lower 25% of data, which is what percentile? Obviously it's 25%, or the 25 percentile. The third quartile represents the first 75% of the data, which is the 75th percentile. 75% of the values are shown above what? Well, 8, because that's our Q3. 25% of the values, and that should say values, are above what? Well, 25% of my values are above what? Let's see, if 25% of the values are above 8, because from my Q3 to my maximum is going to be 25%. The median of the lower half of this data is what? Well, that would be my Q1, so it's going to be 1.5. The median of my upper half would be what? Q3, which is going to be 8. So it means a good bit if we go ahead and find all of these different values, the minimum, the Q1, the median, the mean, excuse me, my Q3 and my max. So if you'll go ahead and find all of these first, When you have to go and answer questions about this data set, it's usually easier because we've already done that calculations. Good job. All right, so it says, let's do some practice. Winston surveys the people in his bowling league. He then constructed the following box plot of the league's ages. Label the box plot with his data. All right, so we don't necessarily have all the ages, but we do have the important numbers. So let's take this important information and plug it in on our box plot. So here we go. So I have my minimum at 10. I have my maximum at 85. I have 30. I have 40. And I have 60. So let me get a different color. So here's my minimum, here's my maximum, I have my Q1, my Q3, and I'm going to label those, and then I have my median. So I have min, I have max, I have my Q1, my Q3, and then I have my median. And that's how we construct that box plot for the data. Good job. All right, it says, which statement correctly represents the data? 25% of the league's ages are under 40. 75% of the league's ages are below 30. 50% of the league's ages are between 30 and 60. 50% of the league's ages are between 15 and 30. 25% of the league's ages are higher than 60. So when I look at these, what can I say? 25% of the league's ages are below 40. Well, that's not true because it's in the middle. That would be 50%. So I know that's not the answer. 75% of the league's ages are below 30. Well, obviously not because that's just 25%. So that's not my answer. 50% of the league's ages are between 30 and 60. Well, let's see. From Q1 to median is 25. From median to Q3 is 25. Well, 2/4 equals 50. So this one is an answer. But see right here where it says statements, that means it can be more than one. So let's look. 50% of the league's ages are between 15 and 30. Well, no, because we really don't know anything about the number 15, so that's not the answer. 25% of the league's ages are higher than 60. Well, 60 is my Q3, and this is 25% to my max, so this is also an answer. So 50% of the league's ages are between 30 and 60, and then 25% of the leagues are higher than 60. So that's how we use this constructed box plot to answer questions. Okay, so it's time for you to master. The number of perfect test scores for each student in Dr. Mann's Bio 2 class are as follows. Construct a box plot for the data set. Label the 5-number summary. What is the middle 50% of the data set between? What is the median of the set? So you and your table partner, go ahead and work this problem, see what you get, come back to me and we'll compare. Here we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these numbers in numerical order. I have to do that to see what I've got. So here we go. So I'm going to put 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 7, and 13. So I could make my line at 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, 13. Those are the numbers that's represented. So now, obviously, this is my minimum. I can put that as my minimum. 13 is going to be my maximum. So those are the easy ones. Now let's go ahead and figure out Q1 and Q3. So my Q1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the first 25% is going to be what? I take 12 and divide it into 4, and it's going to be my first 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here is my Q1. All right, my median is going to be what? Well, a wonderful way to figure out the median, which is the middle, is to cross off and see which one stays in the middle. So this is going to be my median. Now that we found our median, let's go ahead and figure that Q3. So the Q3 is that 75%, or those 3 of the quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to have that Q3 here. So when I make that box and whiskers, or that box plot that we talked about, it's going to look like that. Ms. Killen, you didn't use 7 because 7 only helped me with averages and medians. It did not really take the place of my percentages of that first 25% or that last 25%. It's just part of that last quarter. All right, so it says, what is the middle, the 50% of the data set? Well, obviously, it's between 1 and 3. And then what is the median of the set? Well, we found out it was 2. All right, check your work, check my work. Let's make sure that it's comparing. Talk about the differences. If you see something that's a little different, talk about how you would do that. All right, so let's see. What is our 5-number summary and how we find that? How do we find that min and max? What is that Q1 and that Q3? And what and where is the median and how is it found? So we talked about that 5-number summary, our minimum, our maximum, our Q1, Q3, and our median. We talked about what that Q1 and Q3 is, how we find them. We take the half and we find the middle of it. In the upper half, we take the middle of that. And where that median is, it's the middle of all of the data and how we find that. I'm having a great time learning about this statistics with one variable with you. I hope you have an awesome day.